53 here on the Bobby Garris Show this evening. As just moments ago, you heard about an hour's worth, an entire concert by Bill Monroe and the Bluegrass Boys. And right now, let's go back to the American City Music Hall in San Francisco as Bobby Garris is standing by with Bill Monroe. Here's Bobby.
Thank you, Dick. Yes, we are not standing but sitting by with the great Bill Monroe after what I consider a best concert I've heard all year. Mr. Monroe, you knocked him dead.
Well, Bob, they all enjoyed the show, seem like, and they're a wonderful audience to play to, and it really makes you work harder, when they're like that. And I always look forward to come to California and play, and I have a lot of fans and friends out here, but they really did enjoy tonight.
Oh, they were stomping their feet, clapping their hands, just absolutely going crazy, and I was too, I got to admit it. I was singing along there with that little gospel medley you did.
Well, that's fine. Appreciate that.
Well, you've been playing bluegrass music now for a long, long time. As a matter of fact, I did some research on you this afternoon, and I guess you started out in the late 20s.
I started playing back, when I was a kid, and then I went on the radio in 1930, and that was the first radio program. Then I worked from there on up, through the Monroe brothers, and then I originated this music in 1939, bluegrass music.
Now, what was it like to travel and play in the late 20s, 30s?
Well, it was something I wanted to do. I wanted to get out on the road. I never had a chance to travel any, and I was raised back in the hills of Kentucky and didn't have any way of getting around too well, Went horseback, back when I was a kid. And to get out like that, it was a thrill of my life, to get going different places and singing to the people.
Well, how did they travel back in those days?
We used to ride horseback, and go play for dances and things like that. But then on up in the late 20s and early 30s, well, of course, we had a Model T Ford back around 1925. And then we got on up and had a better car around 1930. And so just these years come around while we got to do a little better.
How many brothers played originally?
Well, I had 5 brothers, and they could all play and sing, but there was only 2 of them that worked with me a long time. That was Birch and Charlie Monroe. And then Charlie and me, we worked together a long time as the Monroe brothers for about 4 years. And then we broke up, and I formed the Bluegrass Boys.
Now, I was reading today, and it said that Charlie used to play what they called a hound dog guitar.
Yeah, that's right.
And you played a potato bug mandolin.
That's what I had when I first started.
Now, what is a hound dog guitar and a potato bug mandolin?
Well, I guess a guitar like that is really just a cheap guitar, that didn't cost over $8 or $10. And I know the first mandolin I had cost $3. Then I got on up to, I believe, $8.50 for another one. And the one following that, I believe, cost around $40. It was a Gibson. So
why did they call it potato bug?
Well, it was made, with stripes around it, and it was a kind of it had a roll around the back of it. The top of it was kind of flat, but then it has in the kind of a shape of a watermelon or something like that, around the back. Uh-huh. But it never would stand up good, and it wasn't very loud. So I had to move on up and bought one from Montgomery Ward, and from there on into the Gibson.
How long have you had the one you played tonight?
Bob, I bought that in 1941 in Miami, Florida.
I got a kick out of the comments you made on stage there. It doesn't do quite what it's supposed to do all the time. It is an old one, but it sounds good.
Yeah, it's been a good man, it really has.
I was going to ask you, now they say you are the father of bluegrass. You didn't start bluegrass music, but you more or less made it what it is today. Is that the kind of music they played in the hills where you grew up?
No, they didn't play a bit of this back in the day. They just played old-time fiddle music for dances, and somebody maybe would sing with a guitar. There was no bluegrass back in the days. It was formed, in 1939, and with the drive and the pitch, the high tone, and everything back then.
The tenor voice.
What I put into it, and it's a music. It takes a lot of practice and. It's a kind of a challenge, one musician to the other man, whatever he's playing. And it's a music you play from your heart and hope it'll touch the other man, the same way. And it's really the best country music in America, I think. They call this other country music, but bluegrass is really down to earth, the best country music of all.
Well, I got to agree with you, Bill, 100%. I was going to ask you just entirely off the wall here, as you played in the 30s, and the late 20s, even the 40s. Did you know any of the great country music stars like A.P. Carter or Jimmy Rogers? Did you ever meet those people?
I'd met A.P. Carter. He used to come to my shows when I'd go up in Virginia, you know, and he'd come and we'd go out and have a cup of coffee and talk. But Rogers died when I was young, and I didn't get to meet Jimmy Rogers. But I did do the Mule Skinner Blues, you know, that he used to sing.
That's right.
But I done it, you know, in a bluegrass style. But he was a great singer, and I've always loved the blues, you know, and he done a good job singing the blues and yodeling.
You've been always able to get fantastic musicians to play with the Bluegrass Boys.
Well, they know what I want, and they got to come with that, you know, if they hold the job. And by doing that, they get better as they go along, and so they're proud of the way that I'm bringing them along, after all.
Well, the tradition of the Bluegrass Boys, I mean, you've got an all-star cast, including Earl Scruggs and Lester Flatt and folks like that. Where do you find these musicians? Now Kenny Baker on the fiddle?
Well, I would go back as far as Earl Scruggs. Now, he was only 19 when he played for me, and Benny Martin was 17, Sonny Osborne was 13, and they was all young boys. And they was just starting. They was in the hope they'd get on with me on the Grand Ole Opry and the bluegrass, and it's helped every one of them, you know. And they've gone on to really make big names for themselves and get in and make a lot of money. People like Lester Flatt and Mac Wiseman and Carter Stanley, James Monroe, they've all, you know, worked with me down through the years. I guess there's been a bigger turnover with me, Bob, than any man, because they'd stay maybe a year and a half or 3 years, up to 3 years, till they learned. Then they'd want to get out on their own. And it's really helped me to bring on a new man, you know, and give him a chance. And maybe he had some good ideas that I could use in the bluegrass music, like a fiddler or the banjo player or something like that. So I think it's been better this way, but there's no telling how many men. Sometime I'm going to sit down and count them all up, see how many really has worked for me down through years since bluegrass started.
Yeah, the entire band could be an all-star bluegrass band, I think. There have been some very fine musicians.
Bob, one time we was in Bean Blossom, Indiana, and there was 106 people playing at one time, you know, played bluegrass music.
What was so special about Earl Scruggs?
He had a style, you know, that was originated down in North Carolina, I guess, but from a fellow by the name of Snuffy Jenkins played that style, you know. And Earl was a young boy and learned how to play it from him. So, of course, String Beans was my first banjo picker, you know.
String Bean was?
Yes, sir. And then Earl was next, and then Don Reno, Rudy Lyles on down the line like that. But Earl played some good banjo when he was with me, and he went ahead to make a big name for himself through being with me, you know, and learning how to play bluegrass music right.
Now, what do you think of this branch-off music that's being played now? There's bluegrass, but it's electronic. Now, do you feel that's all right, or do you think that's away from the mainstream?
Well, now, you know, I think that there's more money in bluegrass if you do it the way we do it. And I think the fans throughout the country want it that way. But a lot of the young kids, you know, they want to play electric and modernize and everything. But I really think, you know, bluegrass is going to stay here on and on now, and because it's still growing and it's all over the whole world. But I think, you know, you've got to sing a gospel song right. You have to sing a ballad right, like Molly and Ten Brooks or Blue Moon of Kentucky. But if it'll start a man out, Blue Moon of Kentucky was Elvis Presley's first number. Will it give him his start to his style? And if these other young people get a style from bluegrass music and go ahead and make a lot of money out of it, I'm for them 100%.
I happen to notice, and I guess you did too, that your audience was very young out there.
Yes, they was. Yes, sir.
You're looking at about 20 to 30 years old.
Bob, it really makes me feel good when we sing a gospel song. They all get in and sing with me. That's a wonderful feeling.
I was singing too.
Well, I appreciate that, man. I really do. Well, what is the call letters of your station?
KNEW.
Well, that's fine. And I really appreciate the station, you know, broadcasting this show and playing my records. I appreciate it. And just like I told you, we do have a MCA album coming out, a new album,
That's
Bluegrass
right.
Memories.
I was going to talk
to you
about that.
And if you would play one on that and tell them that we had an album out, I'd appreciate that, man.
Well, just before we went on and talked to you, we were playing some cuts out of the album, and after we get through talking, Dick's going to play some more. As a matter of fact, we're going to play all but the Christmas cuts, and we'll save those.
Well, fine.
Okay, I was going to ask you, what's with the bull on the back of the album? Who's that?
Now,
you're riding a bull.
Well, I have a farm out from Nashville, and I have this Black Angus bull, you know, and he's up about, well, I kept him on and on. He's around 10 years old. And Bob, if he's laying down the field, I can sit down on him. Or if he's up, I can get on him and ride him. And so I wouldn't take nothing for that bull. His name is Bobo, the bull. And so that's why his picture's on there. And there's a pair of little mules there, name of Mary and Rhodey. They're these little pony mules, you know. And I have this farm out in Nashville, where we fox hunt a lot, and have a herd of cattle there. And it gives me a chance to get away from a lot of noise or a lot of people bothering me at different times.
How much time do you spend at home in a given year, Bill?
Well, I'm on the road around 200 days out of the year.
My goodness gracious.
But I just get to go to the farm, and loafer and see the country hillsides and everything. It does me a lot of good.
Boy, you're looking good. You're looking very sprite, and your voice, your tenor delivery up there is as good as I've ever heard it.
Give me your honest opinion. Is my voice holding up all right?
I think it is. I really do. Now, I've heard some of your early albums. We've got some back when you were singing with your brother, and I've heard some stuff from the 60s, and I honestly feel, listening, that your voice is holding up very fine.
A lot of people says it's better, that I do a song now better than I've done back in the days, but when you're 66 years old, you're afraid your voice is going to break, But mine has held up pretty good. I have never smoked, and never drank. Mm-hmm. And I think that's played a great part in my voice holding up like it has.
What's been your greatest thrill in your years of country music?
Well, to originate this music and be on the Grand Ole Opry, it's been a big thrill.
I saw you, by the way, this summer.
You did?
I went to the fanfare.
Oh, you was there?
And you had that the first day I got there, the first event I went to see, you had that, at the auditorium, you had that Bluegrass Festival. All the bluegrass musicians were there, and you were all up on stage. You remember that?
Yes, I do. Yes, sir.
And they had Hubert Davis and yourself, and everybody was
Well, I'm so glad that you made it. How do you like the Opryland now?
Isn't that pretty?
It's a beautiful place.
Do you feel that going to the new auditorium there, the new Grand Ole Opry, lost some of the magic of the old Ryman?
It might have lost a little in one way, but it's built up in another way. It gives the people plenty of room to come out there and see a show, and a lot of comfort, you see. And the entertainers, they got better dressing rooms and everything. So they had to really expand like that. They had to build this place to take care of all the fans, the people that comes to the Nashville now to see the country music show, the Grand Ole Opry.
Do you ever go back? Do you ever play the Grand Ole Opry now as a guest?
I go back around there past it, where the old Ryman's Auditorium, and see that. But I'm on the Grand Ole Opry 20 Saturdays out of the year.
20 Saturdays?
Yeah, I have to be there that many.
Well, I got to admit, that was one of my all-time thrills, to sit in the Grand Ole Opry and watch how they did that, the commercials, how they ran that. It was unbelievable.
Well, Bob, the next time you come back there, if you ever do, be sure that you come around and let me know you're there. And I'll take you backstage and let you meet with a lot of people back there if you haven't. Be glad to have you back there.
Very good. I bet you were awfully thrilled, too, to be elected a member of the Country Music Hall of Fame.
That was wonderful. And that was a big help to bluegrass music, to let all the entertainers know, that they could be one of the bluegrass people in the Hall of Fame. And I appreciate that a lot. I think that's great.
Well, listen, it's just about 5 minutes after 10. You got a show coming up here very shortly, and I'm not going to take too much of your time because you've already worked. But I appreciate you coming in here and taking some time with us and talking to our listeners out there. This is live, by the way.
Bob, again, I want to thank you. I really appreciate being on your show. It's wonderful. And I appreciate all the fans in California and here in San Francisco. They're true fans and good people. A lot of them from back in that country up there, and a lot from right out here in this country. And it's a pleasure to come back to California anytime, and I wish them all the best.
Well, Bill, we got another sold-out house up there. You better get yourself ready, go up and entertain, and thank you so very much.
Thank you.